What is up, YouTube? Lucas here. Let me take off this hat. It looks kind of dumb. Okay, there we go. I don't know why I was wearing a hat indoors anyway, but anywho, me again. I'm getting a little less busier because I'm nearing the end of the semester. I've already done one of my final exams, and I got some more coming up next week, so I'm a little less busy. So I'm gonna get on here. It's gonna be a different kind of video for you guys, but I'm pretty much gonna talk about my weight loss journey so far and how I ended up obese and other stuff like that too. And I hope that this inspires you if you're obese or overweight to, maybe make a change. Hopefully this inspires you. If you guys like this video though, leave a like, smash the subscribe button, leave a comment if you like, just whatever. So I'm gonna, sorry if you guys hear that's my brother out in the living room playing video games. Anywho, I'm gonna start from my childhood. I wasn't always big. Actually, I remember seeing a picture of like 5-year-old me, and I was like a normal weight. I don't think I really started getting overweight for like my age until it was about 8 or 9, I'd say. So before then, I'd say I was pretty good. I always loved eating though. I think that's just something in my genetics, especially on my dad's side. We just love eating. I was always eating. Like some of my favorite foods were like corn dogs, which are still one of my favorites. I love those things. But like corn dogs and Hot Pockets, cereal with milk, obviously, especially strawberry and chocolate milk, like the flavored milks I loved, and I still do, obviously. And just like, a bunch of stuff like that, like chicken patties, like frozen chicken patties, like cheap processed stuff that like is not very good for you. And, I was always in the middle class. We never had like a super butt ton of money, but we weren't like dirt poor either. So we were always in the middle class, and so that's like some of the only food we could afford. And, my mom did her best, obviously, but, I was always very pushy, always kind of, not like manipulative, but, I would complain about whenever I wouldn't get enough food or whatever, even though it was enough to fill me up. I always like wanted more. I always had like that craving, I guess you could say. And so, yeah, around 8 or 9, like I said earlier, is whenever I really started to get more overweight. And then going into middle school, we had a thing called a la carte. And I remember they had pizza Bosco sticks. So, like the normal Bosco sticks, like the bread filled with cheese or whatever. Well, these were the pizza version where it had all that, but it was also had like pepperoni and pizza sauce into it. I bought 8 of those. One of those alone had to have been at least 350 calories at the very least. I remember I ate 8 of them along with my normal lunch we had that day, which was corn dogs, and everybody got 2 corn dogs. I remember, so 2 corn dogs plus like 3 milks that came in the carton plus 8 Bosco sticks, and then I also had like apple juice that they had like in the vending machine. So think about all that. I was doing that in middle school, like at the age of 10. And here's the thing, everybody was impressed, like, dang, he can eat a lot. But us kids, we didn't really think about nutrition that much. And I don't know, it just, nobody really thought about it. Nobody ever said, hey, you think you're eating a little too much? Everybody just thought it was cool because I could eat more than anybody else. And I still can. I still can eat more than anybody else, but I choose not to, and I'll get to that later. But, and then going into high school, I got really big. Well, I was already big before then, but high school, I remember my sophomore year, this was whenever COVID hit. Nobody was getting exercise pretty much. I think at my heaviest, it was my sophomore year. I was 410 pounds, 411 pounds. Being 6'6", I didn't look as fat as, most people probably think. But I mean, again, being 6'6", I would think at the time I was like 6'4", 6'5". It doesn't really look that noticeable to most people, I wouldn't think. But yeah, that was, but what did I do? I didn't do nothing. I was like, you know what? Oh, maybe that's normal, Honestly, I'm going to be honest, I have autism, and I think that really, really impaired my judgment in that moment, was my autism kicking in, being like, you feel fine, or whatever, But yeah, and, I still ate pretty bad going into college, and college was pretty bad too, and, I'll get into this. So, I used to not eat breakfast a whole lot, but once my college year started rolling around, I don't know, I got a craving for something in the morning. And, I wouldn't always go out to eat for breakfast, even though sometimes I would. I would go to my workplace, which was right down the road from the college from the community college I went to at the time, whenever I was going there. My workplace was, like, literally a quarter of a mile from the college, so sometimes I would go there for breakfast, and I would get I work at McDonald's, by the way, for those of you who don't know, obviously. I would get, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 sausage and cheese biscuits. Like, those alone, I mean, that's what? That's 510 calories per thing, like, 510 calories times 4. Let's just say 4. That alone is 2,040 calories just for breakfast alone. But yeah, that's how they went sometimes, and I don't know, it was just that was bad. And then they had a cafe at lunch. It was like all food. It wasn't like some colleges where like they have like a fast food express or whatever. They had their own cafe. They still do, obviously. And the food was great. Like, the food was still great. But, like, I would get, like, a double cheeseburger, fries, and, like, a drink. But, sometimes I would go up for seconds. It was, like, the $5 meal deals. So, I'd spend $10 on both these meal deals or whatever. And I don't know the nutritional information of those. But, I mean, double cheeseburger, the patties were about that thick, I'd say. 2 pieces of cheese, an order of fries, and then, like, a drink. I would usually get, like, a Mountain Dew from the fountain. I mean, that right there alone easily could be, like, 2,000 calories. And then for dinner, it really depends on dinner, but sometimes for dinner, a lot of the times, I was eating out because I was always in theater, so I always went to go somewhere to go eat before I went to rehearsal. And, like, I would go to Sonic sometimes, and I would get, like, a large order of mozzarella sticks and 2 pretzel twists with signature cheese dip and, like, a burger. So, like, literally, if you want to know, like, literally my meals of the day, so a lot of the times were well over, like, 4,000 calories. And the reason I don't think I gained as much weight was because, I was still, like, walking around campus. I still had a job that I was walking constantly around, McDonald's, always on my feet, and then rehearsals, always on my feet and stuff like that. So I think if I didn't have all that, I definitely would have gained a lot more weight. But I still gained quite a bit of weight, and I just didn't even know it because, I didn't have, like, a good knowledge, I guess you could say. Another thing I want to mention is that, and then whenever I wouldn't go out to eat for breakfast on those days, what I would have for breakfast is that I would have 2 great value English muffins, each 130 calories. So each 130 calories. And then I would have 4 pieces of great value maple flavored breakfast sausage patties, like, and those were each 210 calories. So if you, like, let me put that into perspective. So 210, so just the patties alone, I was eating 4 of them. That's 840 calories, and each one has 19 grams of fat. Think about that. And then plus the 260 from the English muffins. And then I would do 4 slices of Kraft, like, singles, and those are each 50 calories a piece. So let me just do this real quick. So that alone, like, that's 1,300 calories, but then I would have a giant glass of milk with it, which, I mean, 1 serving of great value milk, which is what I would do, 2%. 1 cup is 120 calories. So, and you times that by, like, 5 or 6. So overall, like, almost 1,900 calories in breakfast sometimes. So, like, yeah, my daily meals, especially on my college days, would roughly be between 4 to 5,000 calories, if I'm going to be completely honest. Now, sometimes I didn't always have rehearsal, so I would go home and have, like, home-cooked meals sometimes. But even then, like, they still weren't healthy. I mean, like, so yeah, like, 4 to 5,000 calories, sometimes 6,000 was how much I was eating a day. And then if I was on my work days or whatever, I could easily get, like, 2 double McChickens. Like, so 2 McChickens at work, and then, like, an extra patty on them, and then 2 pieces of cheese. Those alone right there, probably around 1,300 calories. And then plus I would get this large cups, like, this big, and I would do 4 of those a day, and it would be, like, either Coke, Sprite, or, like, whatever. So yeah, on my work days, roughly around the same, 4 to 5,000 calories, sometimes 6,000. So yeah, and then if there was ever a party, I would usually do more. So yeah, all I can say is that I gained a lot of weight. I would have gained more if I wasn't like working on my feet or, theater, like moving around or, walking around campus. And I'm gonna fast forward because nothing really changes, but fast forward to this year. And it happened in June. I was at work. And this is only like a couple weeks after I had developed sciatica, which is a pain, like an inflammation in your sciatic nerve in my left leg, which is the largest nerve in your body, for those of you who don't know. And, I don't know, I was on my break and I was eating my normal, I was eating my 2 double McChickens. Um, and I just cried. I don't know why. Because, like, the thought just came to my head, like, I need to make a change because I'm very overweight. I think at this time, I was about 402 pounds in that range. So I was like, I need to make a change. And so I signed up for a gym membership that day. I worked out, and I was like, I got to change. Now, whenever I changed up my diet, I did not do it right at first. Because, I mean, man, I'm a big guy. I do need still quite a bit of calories. Like, especially by the amount I was working out. I was working out 5 days a week, 4 to 5 days a week, And my body, whenever I switch up that, I need at least 2,700 calories. I was trying to get at 1,600 to 1,700. And, like, it changed, and I thought I was doing good. I was like, yeah, I'm eating way less than what I'm supposed to or whatever. But I didn't realize that can really mess up your metabolism and make it harder to burn calories. I was starving myself, essentially, in a way. So, I mean, I was burning calories at the gym, but also eating less. So, I was burning roughly, if you're going to include that, I mean, 1,500 calories a day, which is not good. Because, I needed my calories because I didn't realize that, it helps your breathing, your circulation, your cell reproduction, hair growth, like everything. So yeah, I got to talk with some people, like either fitness people or like people who knew way more about nutrition than I did. And, they told me, like, this is how much you need. Like, don't ever starve yourself. You can fast, if you want, which I personally don't do, like, day-long fast. I do, like, 12 hours at the minimum, usually, because I think that's okay. But they were like, you need to eat your BMR, your basic metabolic rate. That's what you need, and you need to do it smartly. They even told me, like, as long as you're in your caloric intake and as long as you're in a calorie deficit, you can really eat whatever you want. I mean, they say, get your protein, but, if you want to do, like, 100 grams of carbs and bump up your fat intake to, like, 120 grams or whatever, that's fine, as long as you're in your caloric intake and as long as you're getting your protein goals. So, yeah, that was, like, a month after I had started all this, and I had lost weight quite a bit. And, but not in a good way. I was losing, like, 4 pounds a week. You're supposed to lose 1 to 2, and, like, that's the safe way to do it. So yeah, so I got that info, I started doing more research. I looked up how much protein I needed, 180, I think 180 grams to 200 grams is like the bare minimum. And that's what I try to do on days I work out, especially. And I will admit, maybe this isn't the greatest thing to have for a guy who's on weight loss, but I still do have my cheat days on Saturdays. And some people are like, maybe you shouldn't have those or whatever. I do those just because it's, I think it's good for my mental health to do those just once a week. And what I mean by cheat days, I mean just like, I can eat past my caloric intake. I can eat whatever I want, I've had cheat days that go up to 35 to 4,000 calories or whatever. I still go to the gym on those days just to make up for it and just so it's not gaining on more. But yeah. And, my breakfast, I eat consistent meals. I eat breakfast every morning, except for Sundays. I don't eat breakfast on Sundays. Which maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, who knows. But, I'll tell you, like, how much my breakfasts are now. So, in the morning, on most days, sometimes I'll switch it up, but on most days, I'll have a Everything Bagel, a Thomas, that's the brand name, Everything Bagel, which is 290 calories. And I'll tell you, like, all the other macros afterwards. This is just, like, an example. And then I'll do 2 pieces of Great Value turkey breakfast sausage patties, which are each 90 calories each, which is a big difference from the 210 calories that the Great Value pork sausage patties have. And then I'll use light cream cheese. So light cream cheese from Great Value, and it's the spreadable kind in the tub, but it's half the fat and like half the calories, or not like half the calories, but it's less fat essentially, and that's roughly around, because I use about 1.5 tablespoons, or 2.5 tablespoons, because one serving is 2 tablespoons, so it's like roughly 85 calories, whatever. And then I'll do a Shamrock protein shake, a Shamrock vanilla protein shake, and then I'll use that with a cup of Great Value milk. So overall, my breakfast is usually 865 calories, about 1,000 to 1,300 calories less than what my breakfast used to be, and it's more protein filled. To break down the protein, so there's 9 grams of protein per those patties. So 9 grams of protein. The Thomas Everything bagels have 10 grams of protein. The cream cheese has like 2 grams of protein. It's not much. And then the cup of milk has 8 grams, and then the protein shake is 30 grams. So that's 68 grams of protein I'm getting, and it's a lot healthier. It's a lot less, while also priorities. And sometimes I'll add in an omelet to go along with it. An omelet, I'll just use eggs, turkey, breakfast sausage, bacon bits, and a little bit of shredded cheese. And again, as long as I'm in my macros, I'm good. So yeah, that's, and I've lost about 60, a little over 60 pounds since I started. It's been about 7 months ago. I started in June of this year. And just some people, that's like, oh, that's not a whole lot. I'm not doing it I'm a patient person, and I'm not trying to do it within like a short amount of time. I'm just trying to do it. That's all. And I think I've done a pretty damn good job at it. So, I hope this video inspires you guys if you guys are struggling with your weight. I just kind of want to give you a story on, how I kind of came to be overweight and obese, and how I'm trying to change it. So if I'm going to give some last minute advice, like I said, talk to a nutritionist, or, not like a nutritionist, but somebody who knows more about nutrition than you. And, stay within your macros. Like I said, you can eat, if you want to eat like 100 grams of carbs and bump it up to like, 120 grams of fat or whatever, you can, as long as it's in your caloric intake. And you can use, I use calculator.net and go to the fitness area, and it'll tell you your BMR. You just got to give your height, your weight, and how much you work out, like what's your activity level, and it'll tell you your caloric needs, your minimum caloric needs of the day. So if you're like, if you're 5'5" and female or whatever, it'll say like, and you're like moderately active, it might say 1,300, or something like that. It's just an example. So yeah, definitely do something like that. And buying healthier food can be more expensive sometimes. Like those turkey sausage patties I buy from Great Value, they're like $2 more than the regular, but they're way healthier, and I think that's worth it in my opinion. So yeah, and also, if you want to have your cheat days, go ahead. It's good for my mentality, at least. And I've lost a little over 60 pounds doing it. So I mean, honestly. So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, leave a comment if you'd like, smash the subscribe button, and I'll see all you beautiful people next time. Peace out.